Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC Fight Night between Jessica Andrade and Erin Blanchfield. We're going to talk two plays here like we always do on the show, but wow, UFC 284, a massive profit night for clients here. We ended up cashing in 11.35 units on the night. Dominated UFC 284. Awesome fights, great stuff, a lot of controversy going on with the pound for pound list. Not even going to get into all that, but great night overall. Hit on our max play. That's now 5-0 on max plays. We are just running through this year. Dominated last year. Want to keep this going. Actually dominated the last couple of years. But having a good year, excited about it. We're going to jump into the main event of the evening. But before we do, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all these things. Follow me at Kyle Anthony UFC. I always love chatting with people, banter going on topics, gambling, all of those things. And yeah, so if you want to become a client, link down in the description, and let's dive into the main event of the evening. And before I get into that, like I always say, that's in the rearview mirror. It's exciting talking about the wins, it's exciting diving into it, but we got business to talk about here. We got to dive right into Fight Night, Jessica Andrade versus Erin Blanchfield. So take those coins that we won, put them in the bankroll, and let's move forward. So let's talk Jessica Andrade versus Erin Blanchfield. And right now you got the line. It's coming a little bit. Jessica Andrade is a -160 on the comeback here. And Erin Blanchfield, it's +135. Now, like we always do here, we're going to talk about 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first person we're talking about here is Jessica Andrade, and 3 fights ago she fought Cynthia Calvillo. Now, you know, remember when Cynthia Calvillo was kind of this maybe new Ronda Rousey, or Dana was kind of hyping her up? That was funny. Anyway, in this fight here, early in the fight, Andrade being patient, walking her forward, and basically stalking Calvillo. I mean, you could tell that the power difference was nowhere near each other. Calvillo, more of a grappler, has no punching power. Andrade, way stronger anywhere the fight goes. And pretty much she was able to kind of move forward, land some nice shots, and Calvillo looked like a deer in headlights, you know, ended up rocking Calvillo up against the fence, and then Andrade unloads a brutal barrage of shots, hurting her. Ref jumps in, fight over, round 1 knockout victory over Cynthia Calvillo. 2 fights ago, she fought Amanda Lemos. And this one here, both of them kind of working at range, kind of looking comfortable. Lemos landing some nice leg kicks, which I thought was very interesting in that fight, that she was able to kind of pepper those out there. But, you know, Lemos is a tough female, really good overall. And, you know, Andrade's kind of pushing forward, and kind of a weird situation where she kind of lunged forward, ended up grabbing her arm, locking in an arm triangle choke, standing. I think it's the first one ever in the UFC, but kind of an interesting situation, kind of how she got and stumbled into that. So not much to break down on that fight there. She ended up getting it. It still shows that Andrade is really good anywhere the fight goes, and still has that experience, the knowledge, and really always open to looking for those finishes. So she goes out there, gets a first round submission finish over Amanda Lemos. And then you've got most recently, as Jessica Andrade fought Lauren Murphy. Now this is another one I don't need to dive into very much here. Is basically she just beat the shit out of Lauren Murphy for 3 rounds. Lauren's tough. She took the beating. She just could not go away. And then there was a point even, you know, Jessica kind of, you know, like, okay, this is how it's going to be. I'll just keep hammering shots. I'm not going to go crazy. She didn't allow herself to get taken down or any of those things. She just pushed forward, landed shots, stayed in the pocket, phone booth fighting. I think it was 30-25 was the score. She just absolutely mauled her. So ended up being a decision victory for Jessica Andrade. Now on the other side here, you've got Erin Blanchfield. She's around +135 mark. 3 fights ago, she fought Miranda Maverick. Now, this was a fight here where you kind of looked at it as 2 grapplers kind of going at it, and you know, Maverick is strong. She's known to be strong. She's known to be a wrestler, a grappler, really able to kind of muscle her opponents down. And that's kind of the way that she was looking at this in this fight here. But the one thing about Maverick that I think a lot of opponents are starting to see is the fact that she's really good being the hammer and not the nail. She likes to wrestle. When she's the one that's pushing the pace, getting on top, she's very, very good. But when she's the other way, she does not have good defensive wrestling. That's really where Erin Blanchfield took advantage of it completely, took her down multiple times, mauled her throughout 3 rounds, mauled her, kept her down. She could not get up when she was on her back. Even when she, they started the round, Erin was very easy to kind of get her back down. I think that actually Maverick was surprised kind of how easy it was for Erin to take her down, but she ends up going all 3 rounds, dominating, top control, keeping Maverick on her back. She goes out there and defeats Maverick via decision. And then 2 fights ago, Blanchfield fought JJ Aldridge. So this was one here where I am not high on JJ Aldridge. I think she is very low level. I don't think there's much that she does very well. She's tough, and I think I give her that she's tough, and her willingness to kind of go out and compete, and I think that's a big part of it. But if you look at this fight here, and I think it's one worth going back and kind of watching, she was outlanding, and again, this goes back to a little bit what's going to be happening. We're going to talk about it shortly, but a little bit what happened in certain fights with Andrade is that, Erin early kept the fight standing. She couldn't get the fight down. JJ was landing the shots. I mean, JJ has the most basic striking. She was peppering her with shots, outlanding. The jab was there, the straight was there, very hittable in the pocket. And not only that, but she was taking Erin down. Erin was on her back a couple times, and this fight only lasted a round and a half. And I would probably give the round and a half to JJ Aldridge up until she ended up getting finished. And JJ Aldridge was doing her thing, landing, going into the second round, same thing, pushing the pace, looking for takedowns, top control. Blanchfield got up, so it wasn't like she was dominated on the ground by any means, but she was able to get up, and still, the pace, everything was all JJ, which is absolutely very surprising. But that second round, it was pretty much almost like Blanchfield threw a shot, and JJ kind of stumbled, and yet blocked it, and that allowed credit to Blanchfield. It allowed her to get top control on JJ. She ended up sinking a submission right away as soon as she got on the ground. She latched it in. So credit to her on that. But overall, if you look at that fight, it was not a good fight for Erin Blanchfield. But she does get the submission victory in that second round. And then most recently, she fought Molly McCann. Now, let's be real here. Molly McCann's not very good either. Tough. Yes, we give her that also, yes, but sloppy technique, not very good, not a well-rounded fighter. I don't think she's like a barroom brawler. And this was a spot here too where easily Erin gets the takedown and then easily slices through her guard, gets her in a crucifix, drops heavy elbows, mashing her down, and then ended up kind of getting back, Molly kind of scrambling a little bit, and then she worked into a Kimura finish, ends up finishing Molly in the first round. Easy win for her, so there you have it there. So with that being said here, now the first thing here is we kind of look at this, and I think a lot of people kind of look at this as, maybe a striker versus grappler kind of situation, and I think it's more of a young grappler versus an experienced, well-rounded fighter in Jessica Andrade. And I think that is kind of being overstated here. And yes, I think that, Blanchfield, she's, 23 years old. She has, I think, a phenomenal talent, young, but a phenomenal talent. I think she'll kind of grow into the UFC. She's going to take her lumps here and there, but this is a big step up for her when you're looking at it. You've got Andrade, heavy pressure, forward pressure, strong in the clinch, top level kind of talent that she's fought, very, very experienced fighter. But I think that the one thing here, and really the only path for Erin Blanchfield, is going to be the grappling, is going to be utilizing top control, is going to be, working submissions and keeping those submissions. And that to me, there's multiple issues here for Blanchfield. I think when you're looking at it, the more and more you cap this, the more and more I was diving into this, it just seemed more and more things kind of piling up against Erin Blanchfield. And the first part here is that in order for her to kind of go in there, have success grappling or in the clinch, is physicality. And the first part here is that there's probably no female in the UFC that is more physical, more strong than Jessica Andrade. There is a very small list that's probably above her or near her or any of those things. But she is one of them that's up there. She is very strong. You don't really see her of a kind of female that's getting muscled around, bullied around. She's the one that's going to push the pace. She's the one that's going to really kind of shorten the distance, get in your face, throw big shots. She's probably one of the harder punchers also when it comes to the female division. She's right up there with some of the elite, so I would put her right there as well too. But I think also the part, and now if you look at it just statistically, or just kind of things that have happened in the past pretty much, and since 2014, Andrade has only been taken down by Valentina Shevchenko. Only Valentina Shevchenko since 2014. That is incredible. That is absurd also. And yes, there was, I think, and even when I look back at the stats, it was, let's see, it was Tisha Torres. They had her take her down, taking Andrade down twice, which is not the case. You go back, you watch the fight, it was not really takedowns. It was like taking your back, but it wasn't an actual takedown. So there's that little bit of discrepancy there, but that's the issue. That's the issue. So she's not somebody that's just going to wilt over. She's not somebody that gets bullied by somebody who is a one-dimensional fighter. I mean, let's be real. Blanchfield's a one-dimensional fighter. She has no striking. And when it comes to her grappling, I think she has ability. There's no doubt she's talented. But you're going against Jessica Andrade, and she is not somebody that is very easy to take down. So, in order for Blanchfield to find success, she's going to have multiple takedowns. It's not going to be one or two takedowns that's just going to all of a sudden she's going to lock something in on Jessica and finish her off. I don't believe that. I think she's going to need multiple takedowns. I think that's very difficult to do unless you're Valentina Shevchenko. So I think that really kind of makes things a little bit more difficult. And even if it does go to the ground, even if the fight does go to the ground, Jessica Andrade is knowledgeable. She's no slouch on the ground. She's going to have strength. She's going to be able to scramble. She's going to be able to look back to her feet. So I think those things kind of sit in the favor of Andrade. But if you also look at it, if it does stay on the feet, I think if this fight stays on the feet, that Blanchfield is going to be treated like Lauren Murphy. I think she is going to get slapped around. I think she'll be taking big shots. Her defense is terrible. Her striking defense is absolutely terrible. And again, we talked about it before a little bit. Just JJ Aldridge landing shots, who doesn't present any kind of strength, any kind of really full-on striking, any kind of high-level experience, and she was doing very well. Again, yes, I understand she lost, but the fact that if she can land those, I believe Andrade can land those, and Andrade landing those is a lot different than JJ Aldridge landing those, and I think that starts to change the fight a little bit. I think that really starts to change the fight when you're looking at, if she can't get her down, what are her paths? How can she win? Is she going to outstrike Andrade on the feet? Once she realizes, I don't think that she's going to have success on the feet, I think that's where Blanchfield is going to really start to get teed off on, and there's going to be big problems for her, as well as this being in the apex cage. I love that for Andrade being in the apex cage. I think that helps her utilize pushing forward, utilize kind of what she did to Calvillo. We've seen her do it too. Even we did it to Lauren Murphy, kind of bullying them up against the fence. And with them not being able to backpedal anymore, she's able to fire off those massive big shots, hurting her opponent, big damage shots, and I think that's going to help her as well too there. And the last part here is the experience and competition level each has faced. I mean, let's be real. Erin is 23 years old. The UFC should not be bringing her up quickly, which they were trying not to, I think. I think they were, it sounds like they're kind of pushing her there prior to this with the short notice stuff and all that. But she's 23 years old. She's young. This is a huge, huge step up for her. Even though it's short notice, it's still a huge, huge step up for her. And if you look at it here, since 2015, Andrade has only lost to current or past champions. That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. The only females that she lost to is Valentina Shevchenko, Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang, and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Over that span, she's 11-4. The only 4 losses, again, are to those 4 females. That's incredible. So pretty much you've got to be putting Erin Blanchfield in that category of elite level female fighters. I mean, this is almost Mount Rushmore. I mean, you get Nunes in there, and you've got the peak of female MMA, and I don't believe Erin Blanchfield is there. Could she be there 3, 4, 5 years from now? Maybe. I don't really think that right now is the time for her. And then also the fact that people are talking about this is a short notice, right? This is a short notice fight for Jessica, you know, and I think that's also why this line has started to come in a little bit. I think people are kind of looking at this as, okay, short notice fight. You've got, you know, an up-and-comer who's looked pretty good. You know, if this was a full camp, if this was a full camp for Jessica Andrade, I would cap her at around -300, and I think she runs through Erin Blanchfield. That's kind of the way I look at this. If it's a full camp, but also on the fact of this is that, yes, it's a short notice fight, but it's not that Andrade has been out for 7 months and we haven't heard from her and she hasn't been fighting, and now they're like, hey, Andrade, come on into a main event, we want you to fight. That's not the case. Her last fight was January 21st. We just talked about it. It was against Lauren Murphy. She took 0 damage. Pretty much nothing really happened to her. It was like a cardio session. She landed big shots, you know, dominated the whole fight. So for her, she just kind of came out of camp. It's yes, there could she have been lackadaisical after it and all these things? Sure, of course, we have no idea. But she just came out of camp not long ago, so it's not that she is going to be completely out of shape or all these, I don't believe that. I think that she's still going to be good. I think the fact that this price is at -160 has come in. I think some books are even doing -150 at this point here. I think that's a fantastic price. I don't believe there's a reason to kind of look for a method of victory or kind of look for better odds. I think this -150, 160 range is fantastic against a female who has a lot to prove, massive step up in competition, limited paths to victory, and doesn't have the strength advantage. So I do like Jessica Andrade here to go out there, dominate this, get the victory. So I'm taking her at -160 as my free play. And the other fight we're going to talk about real quickly here is Mayra Bueno Silva versus Lena Landsberg. Now you've got a massive line here. Silva is -440, and I think that continues to go up. And you've got Landsberg, she's +310. Now, you got Landsberg, she's 40 years old. You've got Silva, she's 31. You've got Landsberg, she's 0-3 in her last 3 performances. You've got Silva, she's 4-2-1 out of her last 7 fights. 2-fight winning streak, has looked pretty good in certain spots, and you know she has a nice pace. She good in the clinch. Strong, can submission hunt when the fight gets there. And I think that a lot of people are really expecting Silva to just run through Landsberg, just kind of smash through her, do what she does, dominate the whole fight, finish her and that kind of thing. Because Landsberg being 40, she could be now, if she loses this fight, she's going to be 0-4 out of her last 4. That's going to be retirement for her. So there is that, and I understand that possibly could Landsberg maybe, be calling this her swan song and not really push very hard? That's possible. That's very possible. But if you look at kind of what she's done recently, she's lost, but she's been competitive. She has been pretty damn competitive in some of those fights. So it's not that she has been getting knocked out or finished left and right. She has been competitive in certain spots. And yes, Silva's going to have that ground game. She's going to have the BJJ. She's going to be submission hunting. She has been able to, find success on the ground there. But I think the biggest part about this fight, when you're looking at it as a length of how, is this going to be an early stoppage? Is going to be, is this fight going to go to a decision? And I think what you're looking at this is, the biggest part of this is that Silva doesn't shoot for takedowns. Now that's her specialty. She's going to be somebody who's going to have, fantastic grappling, fantastic BJJ, very good on the ground, these kinds of things that happen, and that's really great for her. But she does not shoot for takedowns. She has, now this is an incredible stat here. She has 8 UFC fights. She has 1 takedown attempt. That is mind-blowing, right? And she has 0 successful takedowns. So the one time she took a shot, she didn't get it. But the crazy part about it is, you may say, hey, but how does she have 3 submission finishes in the UFC? Well, that's because 3 of her opponents that took her down. And that was kind of where they wanted to be, and they ended up getting out grappled. You have Jillian Robertson, Barella, and you have Edgar. I mean, these three females took her down, and she ended up taking the position, controlling, finding a way to get the finish. Now, that is one part of it where she doesn't shoot for takedowns, and she needs her opponent to kind of go for that in order to find these takedowns. And I believe that Landsberg has no reason to shoot. She has zero reason to shoot for a takedown. She has zero reason to kind of start to mess with basically the strongest path for Silva, and I don't believe that's going to be happening. And like I just said, over her last three fights, yes, she lost, but she has looked pretty, okay in certain spots. I shouldn't say good, but okay in certain spots. I mean, she knocked down a couple opponents, dropped a couple opponents, even Penny Chienza, she ended up dropping her. So she's out there, and she's really, really trying to keep going. And the other part about this is that Lena is not easy to finish. She is not an easy person to finish. Even at this point in her career, she is at the latter part of her career, and she is still being able to get to those decisions. Now, if you look at it, the last time she was finished was back in 2017 against Aspen Ladd. That's pretty crazy if you look at that. That is pretty crazy. That's 7 straight fights going to a decision. She was 3-4 over that span. So for me here, I think you got to get off the big number here. Obviously, I'm not going to be giving you a minus 440. That's ridiculous. I wouldn't be talking about that here on the show. But I think this plays out on the feet. I think the biggest part of this is it's going to play out on the feet. I think that's Myra's not going to have this massive advantage there. I think it pitter-patter shots. I think she can keep some grappling positions. I think she can, in the clinch, can kind of control certain rounds in that way. But I don't think that this fight goes to the ground. I think it stays standing. I think it's competitive in certain spots, but I think Myra can do enough. But I don't think that Lena goes anywhere. I think this gets to the judges' scorecard. So if you're looking at this here, you got Myra minus 440 on the money line. If you're looking at this, Myra via points, it's plus 140. I love that number. I think it's a fantastic spot here against a girl who is going to be very tough to put away. And I think that the path of victory for Myra won't be there, or the finishing path for Myra won't be there. And I think this goes to a decision. So as my other free play, I'm taking Myra Brenna Silva via points plus 140. So those are my plays for UFC Fight Night for this Saturday. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. And we're coming off a massive 11.35 units. Let's do it again. Why don't we do that again? But if you want to become a client again, check it out. I always appreciate people liking, commenting, subscribing. Helps the channel grow. And let's see how we do. This is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.